Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. Now, you might be asking yourself, John, what is a companion video? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take live questions from the audience, but we don't always have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. Actually, quite often we don't have enough time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. But I want to make sure if you've asked those questions, that those questions get answered properly in a video, so we gather up those unused questions and we address them here on companion videos. Now, this companion video is being recorded on Thursday, January the 16th, and there was no John Campea Show earlier today. If you are a regular viewer here, you probably noticed there was no regular John Campea Show earlier today. And the reason that is, for too much information, is the fact that we went out for some Japanese barbecue. Me and a few people went out for some Japanese barbecue last night. And then I got home and went to bed and was like, my tummy doesn't feel so good. And it felt even worse in the morning. Yeah, and I was not in good shape most of the day, but we were so far behind on the number of questions that I just had to do at least one companion video here today. So that's what we're going to do. And listen, speaking of companion videos and the questions that you guys send in, I want to do a little bit of house cleaning and let you guys know about something here. And you, the viewers of this particular companion video, will be the first ones to find this out. Now, one of the ways that our viewers can actually support the channel, and it's a great way to support the channel, is by using the tip link that you see in the first line of the description of this video, because you can send in questions there for the show anytime, 24/7, and then we get around to them on the next show that we're doing. Or you have been able to use the super chat feature. We have decided to turn off the super chat feature for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is because, first of all, not everywhere can actually even use the super chat feature. Like, we discovered that once we turned on the tip link, that a lot of people started writing in and saying, oh my gosh, like, I've always wanted to support the show and send in questions this way and support the show, but, you know, the super chat feature hasn't been available in the country that we live in. So, you know, that's one of the reasons to move away from it. The second reason is because while we keep everything that you guys send in using the tip link, that actually goes right to the show. All of it goes right to the show. Like, PayPal keeps like a small, tiny percentage of it, but it's honestly cents on the dollar. It's very, very small. Whereas YouTube, understandably, it's fair enough, YouTube keeps 1/3 of everything you guys send in. So that's another reason we're moving away from it. So what we wanted to do was just kind of to gather it all into one place, and moving forward, at least for a few months, we're going to test it this way for a few months, is we're just going to use the tip link that, again, is in the top line of this thing. So moving forward, if you want to send in a question for the show, that's the way to do it. So and we just thought it would simplify the process, and it would be more beneficial to the show. And if it's more beneficial to the show, then that means we can do more things to make the show as good as we possibly can. So that's the direction we're going. Anyway, with all that down, I've wasted enough of your time. Now let's actually get to the reason why you're here and get to some of these questions that you guys have sent in. And we're going to get started off here with Sully, who wrote in, Fast 9 is 4 months away and still no trailer. You know, one of the things that I've noticed a lot, and we've talked about this a lot over the years, is that people always like freaking out when a trailer isn't out 6 months out. Now, even I said, for a big blockbuster movie like Fast and the Furious and Fast 9, it is a little unusual to be this close and having no trailer yet, but we do know that a trailer is on its way very, very soon. A trailer is on its way very soon, and I think this is another sign of the really positive direction Hollywood is starting to go in, understanding they need to shrink their marketing windows. I've said for a long time, the marketing windows is too big. Putting out a trailer for a movie 9 months before it comes out does nothing to help your movie. Nothing. Because by the time you're 2 months out from your movie coming out, nobody remembers that first trailer. Godzilla, King of the Monsters was a great example of that. So I think a big movie like Fast 9, not putting out its first trailer till like 3.5, 4 months before the movie comes out, I think it's a positive sign for Hollywood heading in the right direction. But that's just me. All right, Benny95 writes, Yo, son, it's Schnepp. Pausing from reading comics with Jesus to remind/tell you that I'm proud of what you've accomplished. You are a blessing to the fan community, something I know people saw in me that I see in you. You're a good man, John. I miss you. Don't be sad because like the Force, I am with you always. Well, thank you for sending that in, Benny. Hey, little bit of a thing. Not cool to speak on behalf of other people, but still, I understand what your motives were there, and that's a very sweet thing of you to say. You know, we were talking about Schnepp again the other day. about, we often will see a movie, whether it's Endgame or something like that, and go, man, I wish Schnepp had been able to see this. Or, I shared the story about when I came out of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. For some reason, I think Schnepp really would have lost his mind over that movie. But somebody brought up again the other day that, we're now living in an era, not just with all these great comic book movies, but now we've had 3 years in a row where a comic book film has captured one of the major nominations at the Academy Award. A couple of years ago, Logan was the first comic book movie ever to get a Best Screenplay nomination. Then last year, we had Black Panther getting a Best Picture nomination. First comic book movie to get a Best Picture nomination. This year, we got Joker, a comic-based movie based on a comic book character, a very popular comic book character, to get another, not just a Best Picture nomination, but it got 11 nominations, more nominations than any other film this year, which is really impressive and really great. And it really would have been something great for the big guy to see. Absolutely, Benny. Thank you for your thoughts on that, man. All right, Benny95 also writes, few moments in film that make me tear up. Frodo's goodbye in Return of the King and Into the West makes me relive the journey the characters went on, but also the goodbye I made to my grandma. Aw. Is there a song moment in film that makes you remember a loved one or moment? Yeah, there are a few. There are definitely a few. One is, and I've shared this before, but just the movie itself, Michael Keaton's Batman movie. His first one. And just for those of you who haven't heard me tell this before, one of the main things that inspired me to pull the trigger and go off and leave the corporate overlords and start doing my own thing was the passing of the guy who was my best friend when I was growing up. His name was Brendan. And one of the things I remember he and I got together for drinks one night. I was visiting Canada just a few months before he passed away. And I didn't even know he was sick at that point. I don't think he knew he was sick at that point either. And, one of the things he used to say, and he said again that night to me, was, life's too short to be unhappy. And I knew I was unhappy where I was, and he passed away. And when he passed away, it really made me think about that statement. I thought, I'm going to make some decisions to be happy. But ever since he passed away, particularly since he's passed away, whenever I see or think of that Batman movie, I think of him because he and I went down together to the Jackson Square Mall in Hamilton, Ontario. It's the first time I had ever gone to a movie where I saw huge lineups. Because Jackson Square is this giant mall, and the theater was in the heart of the mall, and seeing the lineup go all the way through around the center of the mall, all the way around the outskirts of the mall, and then outside onto the streets. I'd never seen anything like that. And me and my buddy Brendan, we were young, but we went to go see this movie, and it's made me think of that a lot. But also you mentioned Into the West. That song, I have never heard a song at the end of a movie that has so enraptured me into the journey that this movie or this series of movies has been. And that does it better than anything I've ever seen. So I agree with you on that, Benny. All right, Benny also writes, so Black Widow states that she had nothing before she found the Avengers family. But in the trailer, it looks like she had quite a lot going for her, a somewhat decent quote-unquote family fighting bad guys together. So I'm assuming they betray her in some way. I don't know, Benny. I think the way I interpret that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but somewhere in Endgame, like when Red Skull calls her Natasha, daughter of, and she mentions the guy, she's like, I didn't know that was my dad. So, I don't really know what that means. I think, though, whatever it was in her past life was not much of a life. And I think that's something they're going to reveal in this movie. So at least I don't know that for sure, but at least that's what I think they're going to be going for in here. We're going to see how that all plays out. Like she's going back to confront her past. She's not going to run from it anymore. So clearly in her mind, there was something like her past is not something she's happy with or wants to revisit, but she's no longer running from it, and she's going right back into it to face whatever it is she needs to face. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go with that. All right, 50 Shades of Geek writes, 1917 was very video game-ish. It was in many ways, and I loved it. Do you like it when movies take this approach? Because I think it works for 1917 more than most movies. It's like many things, though, 50 Shades. It all depends on the movie and the scenes themselves. Like just slapping a video game, like where I really start to feel it, and this isn't giving anything away because there's no plot point to this, but you get to that one point in the movie where you've got the destroyed bridge over the little river, right? The little river, a little stream, whatever. And he's like going through the water and then trying to walk along the thin bar and trying to walk up it, and the camera's behind him. And I remember saying to my wife, Anne, when that was going on, I was like, this feels like a video game. And and I meant that in a good way because it made me feel immersed in the story. But that doesn't necessarily always work. As a matter of fact, I think it only works in very particular scenarios that set itself up for that. But they did it in 1917. And to me, it really worked because it made it feel even more immersive to me. But that's just my thoughts on that. I'm glad you saw it too, 50 Shades. All right, Sully writes, yesterday you called Tom Holland Tom Hardy 3 times. Oh, I'm not surprised. Like, for instance, when I'm talking about like Kevin Hart, I'll often say Kevin Smith for whatever reason. And unless somebody corrects me, you know, your brain just gets locked in a thing there because I'm doing the show live. I can't edit it later. So I'm not surprised that I did that. And my wife is always calling out, he did it again. It makes me laugh every time. Have a good day. Oh, dude, I'm sure I do it a lot, though. More than just Tom Holland or Tom Hardy. I'm sure I get a lot of names mixed up all the time, unless I got somebody here to correct me. Because, again, I'm doing it live. I don't have any sounding board coming back at me. So, it is what it is. It used to really bother me when I realized that I did that, but now I'm just like, whatever, it happens. But thanks for pointing it out. All right, Jar of Palpatines writes, this is clearly Hollywood's issue. They complain but don't do anything about it. And what's crazy is if Greta Gerwig got nominated, people would complain that she was the only woman nominated, and if she doesn't win, then the Academy is sexist. It's a no-win. Well, I mean, I don't think there are a lot of people to be honest, I don't think there are a lot of people like that. I think there's a very, very small group of people that are like that. So I don't think that's actually a real issue. This all comes from, look, my position on this is pretty clear and unpopular, and I'm comfortable with having the unpopular opinion. It is what I think, though. I think it is very clear that Hollywood needs to be more inclusive, and Hollywood needs to offer opportunities to people other than those that look like me. Now, that's been a problem for a long time, and it's starting to change, and that's good, but they've got a long way to go. That said, it is not the Oscars' responsibility. The Oscars' responsibility is not to give opportunity. The Oscars' responsibility is to nominate that which they felt was best this year. That's their job, and that's only their job. There is no other job they have outside of that. They simply have to look at whatever the films are that are eligible, and without any consideration to the people involved in terms of their race, gender, orientation, nationality, whatever, all that needs to be taken out of it. And it's just up to them to vote for what they personally felt was best. And if they personally felt that the 5 best directing performances this year happened to be, all men, then fine, you do that. To me, the responsibility is on Hollywood to give more female directors the opportunity to direct more films so that the Academy has a wider berth of consideration to give. But as things are, I don't believe that's the Oscars' responsibility. It's not the Oscars' responsibility to go, well, we think these are the 5 best, whether it's actor, actress, director, cinematographers, it doesn't matter. We think these are the 5 best, but we have to put in somebody who we didn't think was one of the 5 best just to be more diverse. That's not the Oscars' responsibility. That is Hollywood's responsibility. A responsibility they have not lived up to. They're making improvements, and I think we need to applaud that when we see improvements, but we still got to acknowledge that there's a long way to go still. So, but when it comes time for the Oscars or the BAFTAs or whatever, that's not their job to do that. Their job is simply to adjudicate what they felt was the best. And if they fail, like John, why am I freezing on his name? The director of Parasite. Anyway, Bong Joon-ho. If they feel like his was one of the best directorial efforts of the year, then it doesn't matter that he's Asian or black or white or whatever, you give him one of the nominations. If it had been Greta Gerwig, who was nominated for Lady Bird, and I didn't think she deserved to be nominated for Lady Bird, but a lot of other people did, so that's fine, I accept that. But if it's not Greta Gerwig, then it's not Greta Gerwig. If it is Greta Gerwig, then it's Greta Gerwig. If it's Bong Joon-ho, then it's him. And if it's not, then it's not. And if it's Guillermo del Toro, then it's him. And if it's Cuarón, then it's him. And if it's Spielberg, then it's him. I mean, it is not the Oscars. The only responsibility the Oscars have, in my opinion, is to vote for that which they felt was the best. That's it. Period. Does that mean that sometimes we get lack of diversity? Yes, but I believe that naturally gets corrected once Hollywood starts doing its fucking job. Anyway, that's just kind of and I know there's a lot of people that disagree with me on that, and hell, maybe I'll hear some great arguments that'll make me change my mind and I'll have a different position in a year from now, but right now that's kind of how I feel about that. Anyway, 50 Shades of Geek writes, the way I see it, the Oscars this year is World War II versus World War I. Jojo Rabbit versus 1917. Love Joker and Ford v Ferrari. Best Picture, sorry, but no. I think Joker's got a lot of momentum. I think Joker definitely has a shot. I agree. I don't think Ford v Ferrari has much of a shot. It should have more of a shot than it's getting because Ford v Ferrari is freaking awesome. Ford v Ferrari is freaking awesome. Now, I'll have lunch, about every month I'll have lunch with one of the studio reps. A few weeks ago, I got to go out with the person I know who works over at Warner Brothers. That was great. This week, I went out with a studio rep from Disney to have lunch. It was great. And we were actually talking about Ford v Ferrari. And I said, I'm surprised that Ford v Ferrari isn't getting more heat. Because Ford v Ferrari is an effing great movie. It is a great movie. But going into the nominations, I was actually surprised it even got a nomination because I heard no heat for it. I felt no heat for it from people, even though I felt like it deserved it. I don't know that Jojo Rabbit has a legit shot at winning. To me, it's the best picture of the year. By hands down, to me, Jojo Rabbit is the best picture of the year. But with Taika Waititi not getting a Best Director nomination, I think that lessens its chances of winning Best Picture. Yes, Argo won Best Picture without Ben Affleck getting a nomination, but that's rare. So I think I think this is going to be my pick is Jojo Rabbit, but the one I actually think will win is probably going to be 1917. We'll have to wait, and I'll have no complaints because it's a magnificent movie. All right, King of the Hills writes, thanks for the crossover spoilers. I think what you're talking about is the day after the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover happened, we talked about, hey, the two Flashes crossover. And some people said that was a spoiler. Let me be very clear about that. It was not a stupid spoiler. It's not a spoiler. You want to know why? Because this is what I always said. Listen, when it comes to movies, I've said this 1,000 times. You guys have all heard me say this before. When it comes to a movie, it is the movie fans' responsibility not to spoil it for other movie fans. When it comes to publicly broadcast television, then it's on the individual viewer to avoid social media until they're caught up. Because here's the thing. To say that Flash crossed over on the CW crossover thing is a spoiler, then what you're saying is the day after the Super Bowl, us going, wow, I can't believe that I can't believe the San Francisco 49ers won. That's amazing. You don't get to go to that person. Why did you spoil it for me? Because it was a publicly broadcast over the airways show that everybody could see. And it was on and everybody's free to talk about it. If it's a movie, that's on us to keep it quiet. If it's a publicly broadcast TV show, that's on you. That's on you. And as a matter of fact, the cast of the CW Arrowverse was publicly posting about it on social media the night before. One of the pictures we showed on our show the other day was Grant Gustin. As soon as the show aired, he put up on his Instagram the pictures, the publicly open his Instagram, the pictures of him and blah, blah, blah. As soon as it becomes public knowledge, it is no longer a spoiler. Now you might say, but John, Punisher is a TV show. Yeah, but it wasn't publicly broadcast, and Punisher drops all at once. And so you never know how far into a show people are. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But John, you might say, the day after a Mandalorian episode, you didn't spoil it. Well, that's because the Mandalorian dropped at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And when I do a 9 a.m. show, I don't expect that anybody had a chance to see it yet. I don't expect that anybody had a chance to see it yet. So yeah, the next day's show, I won't talk about it. A couple days later, I will, but I won't talk about it that next day because nobody's had a chance to see it, or at least very few who weren't stupid like me and stayed up to 3 a.m. to watch it. So sorry, King of the Hills, but if there's a hockey game on and you don't want to know what the score was for that hockey game, then that's on you to stay off social media until you get a chance to watch the game on your DVR or whatever. It's not up to everybody else to. None of us are allowed to talk about it publicly because King of the Hills didn't watch it yet. That's on you. Like I remember for Sons of Anarchy, which is my favorite show for a long time. My favorite character on Sons of Anarchy bit the dust. I had it spoiled for me on social media before I had a chance to watch a show, but I knew that was on me. I knew Sons of Anarchy aired that night, and I knew I couldn't watch it that night, and I knew that everybody's going to talk about the episode because it was broadcast, so that was on me to stay off social media until I could watch it. And look, as soon as Grant Gustin starts posting publicly the pictures of him and Ezra Miller together, that completely stops it from being a spoiler because now it's public knowledge. So no, we did not spoil anything. It was publicly broadcast. It was publicly talked about by all the cast and crew on their social media outlets. Then it becomes on you if you want to avoid spoilers for that. That's my feeling on it. That's how I look at it when it comes to me getting spoiled on things for TV shows. That's how I look at it in general. So no, wasn't a spoiler, unless you're saying Grant Gustin sharing it was a spoiler. But once he puts it out, it's public knowledge. Anyway. Okay, Kenneth Colton writes, "Hey John, everyone from IGN to Yahoo is talking about the legend himself, Robert Meyer Burnett, after he talked about Colin Trevorrow's episode 9 script." Wow, yeah, so of course Robert got his hands on the episode 9 script. And some people asked me, said, well, John, why didn't you talk about it on your show? Like it was this big scoop that Robert had. And honestly, the reason I decided not to talk about it on my show was because it's Robert's scoop. I didn't want to steal the thunder. It's Robert's scoop. And I wanted that if anybody wanted to hear Robert talking about him getting his hands on that script, I wanted it to be them going to his channel and his video to watch it. I didn't want to siphon any of that thunder off of his channel. So yeah, I could have said, okay, let's make that a topic today. We're going to talk about this thing. But in my opinion, it was like, that's Robert's scoop. And I'm not in the scoop business anyway. That's Robert's kind of break. I'm not going to steal his thunder for it. I'm going to keep I'm going to let him have all the attention for that particular story and keep it on his channel. And I guess that was just, now maybe that was the right move. Maybe it was the wrong move. I don't know. But I just felt the moment I didn't want to steal the thunder from his channel. He came up with this great thing, the actual Colin Trevorrow script for Star Wars Episode 9 that never got used. And I just wanted him and his channel to benefit from it. And so I just wanted to leave it at that. So that was, again, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong, but that was my thinking of it as I approached it. Okay, ZOG Ruler writes, Harvey Dent went from a black man to a white man. I mean, and vice versa. All right. I mean, our first movie version of Harvey Dent was, of course, Billy D. Williams. So our first Harvey Dent on the big screen was a black man. And then that went to a white man and Gary Oldman. And so, and then we've gone back to it being a black man and Jeffrey Wright, who's such a good actor. I'm excited about it. All right. Ryan Lohner, again, it doesn't matter to me what color Commissioner Gordon is. That has nothing to do with this character. Ryan Lohner writes, thanks for the reminder how much I can't stand Ezra's Flash. It's like he's constantly screaming in my face. Look how lovably quirky I am. Adore me. Well, I don't know. I mean, you could say the same thing about Baby Yoda. I mean, you could say, I don't, but you could say that about Baby Yoda. Look, it's cool. I know there's a bunch of people who don't like Ezra Miller's Flash, and that's totally fine. I personally really like Ezra Miller's Flash. I just do. And I do find his quirkiness adorable. And I like watching him playing the Flash. So, yeah, that's just me, though. But hey, listen, Ryan, you're not alone. I know a lot of people don't like him either, and that's totally cool. All right. ZOG Ruler writes, the DCEU Flash cameo blew my mind. Now that we know the DCEU exists in the CW multiverse, it's entirely possible that the crisis may have had an impact on the DCEU, and we could see changes like Commissioner Gordon as a black guy now. Crisis just opened Pandora's box. I really don't think that's what their intention was. I really don't. As a matter of fact, what the whole story about how it came about really makes it clear that that wasn't their intention. They never even planned that shot. They had already shot the crossover. It was done. And then, DC said to them, well, why don't we do this? And they were like, okay. And then they just kind of got Grant Gustin and Ezra Miller together and nobody else and just shot that scene and edited it in. There was no plan for it. There was no purpose for it. I don't think it was making any kind of a grand statement because the DCEU does not fit with the CW universe. The DCEU simply does not fit with the CW universe. So no, I listen, they could shock and surprise us, just like Ezra popping up was a shock and surprise to me. To me, though, Ezra Miller showing up in this was not a statement from Warner Brothers saying, we're going to make the TV and the movie universes connect. I don't think that at all. I think more that it was a proclamation from Warner Brothers saying, see, we're serious about making this Flash movie. Because, people like me, I've been like, I won't believe it till I see it. Like, I'm not saying they won't make a Flash movie, but I don't believe it. They've just been talking about it for too many years and too many canceled and pushed release dates and starting dates and blah, blah, blah. And too many directors have come and gone and too many writers have come and gone. I'll just believe it when I see it. Them having Ezra Miller show up on that Arrowverse crossover did more to move the needle for me to believing it than anything else. And I think that was really more the purpose for it. I mean, who knows? We'll have to wait and see, but that's kind of how I feel about it right now. We'll see if that changes, though. All right, Blake writes, I know this is hindsight and doesn't matter at all anymore, but do you think Kennedy at least approached Spielberg about bringing home episode 9 for his old buddy George? That would have been fun, thanks. Oh, listen, I have said for decades, the one thing, if I could have one movie wish, if Will Smith's genie appeared to me saying never had a friend like me and said, okay, kid, you get one wish. Instead of the normal 3, you get one. You get one movie wish. One movie wish. My movie wish would be Steven Spielberg directing the greatest filmmaker of all time directing a Star Wars movie. George Lucas's buddy, Steven Spielberg. They have such a long, storied friendship. It was so great because I was at the Force Awakens premiere and there's George. I mean, I'm sitting there in the building in my seat, looking over here across from me and seeing Steven Spielberg and George Lucas sitting together. It was quite a moment, but that's what I would have loved. Listen, I can't imagine. First of all, Kathy Kennedy is such a close, tight relationship with Steven Spielberg. Of course, over dinner some night with friends, she must have at some point said, so Steven, would you be at all interested in maybe directing a Star Wars movie? I mean, she had to have at least mentioned it because that would have looked great on her legacy as well. So I got to believe the question was asked, Blake. I got to believe the question was asked. All right. Adrian McGraw writes, watch Pennyworth. Just saw episode 1. It was amazing. I saw the first 3 episodes of Pennyworth, and I liked it very much. The problem was I wasn't about to sign up for yet another streaming service so I could watch it. They put out like the first 3 episodes for free on Amazon Prime, but that's it. They put them out to get you to hooked in, and I did love it. I loved the first few episodes. I did, but I never got around to watching the rest. So hopefully I'll get a chance to because I really did like the way that show was evolving. All right, Nicholas MJP writes, hey, John and Rob, who's clearly not here. You guys have really turned me from a Star Wars / comic book movie fan into somebody who appreciates a ton of film genres. That is the highest compliment you can give, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. With that said, what is your favorite Jack Nicholson film? Mine is Chinatown. Ooh, Jack. Mine is not The Shining. A lot of people will rush to say The Shining. I think, honestly, it's my favorite Jack movie. are the two I'm going to mention are not ones anybody will think of. One of which a lot of people don't even like, but I love him in it, and that's The Witches of Eastwick. I love The Witches of Eastwick. A lot of people argue it's not even a good movie, and I understand why. I do. But for whatever reason, Witches of Eastwick is a movie that really, really resonates. It just works with me. It hits that entertainment funny bone for me, and Jack in it, I think, is fantastic. The other one is an odd one for me to mention because Jack's not even the lead character in it. He's a supporting actor in it, but it's A Few Good Men. Now, yeah, everybody remembers the "you can't handle the truth" line. I get that, yes, but the whole performance is absolutely incredible. The whole performance is absolutely incredible. But my favorite Jack movie is another one that nobody will talk about, but to me, it's As Good as It Gets. His performance in As Good as It Gets with, first of all, Greg Kinnear, who was also absolutely fantastic in it. Cuba Gooding Jr., the girl, from Mad About You. Why am I forgetting her name? Because she's amazing. But anyway, the girl from Mad About You. Harold Ramis was in it. The late, great Harold Ramis was in it. I love that movie, and I love Jack in it. So I'm going to say that's my favorite Jack movie, actually. All right, Julius Goodwin writes, just curious, what was the name of the movie you directed and starred in? I never starred in any movie. I'd just like to see it, if possible, on Amazon or some other movie site. The only thing I ever starred in was an award-winning, actually, fan film that me and some friends did that is truly awful. We did a Star Wars fan film a bunch of years ago, and it's truly, truly awful. But that was just a short little fan film. The film I directed was a movie called The Anniversary, which, you know, by Hollywood movie standards is just terrible. But I directed it myself, and I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud of that movie. It is not available publicly to view. I did make it available to my Patreon supporters to watch it. So I put it up for my Patreon supporters to watch. I made it like 10 years ago. But I had a lot of fun with it. And that was the name of the movie that I did, The Anniversary. I also did a little documentary called Prince of Peace, God of War. Not very good from a technical point of view, but I'm very, very proud of that documentary. I've always really been very, very proud of that documentary, Prince of Peace, God of War. I had no idea what B-roll was. There's no B-roll in that movie. None. It's just like boring talking heads. But because I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought the topic was interesting, and I drove across the country talking to experts, getting their thoughts on this interesting topic, and I did. I was very happy with it. And now we've started shooting a new documentary that I'm hoping from at least a technical point of view will be a much better movie from a technical point of view. I've learned a lot. And maybe it'll be a bag of crap. Maybe it'll win me an Academy Award. I have no idea. But yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Okay, let's see here. Darklock63 writes, according to the novel, Phasma's armor is made from the skin of a ship similar to Padme's in the prequels. Ooh, shiny. Yeah, that's right, because I brought that up. It's like, because somebody was asking the other day if Phasma's armor was made of Beskar, and I said, wait a minute, because I think I remember in the novel they made it from this other material. It wasn't actually Beskar. She actually took the armor from a ship, like a downed ship, and made her own armor out of it. And that's kind of the origins of that armor. But it was not Beskar. But I remember Darklight at the time, somebody asked me that. I'm like, ooh, that's actually a great question. And it took me a few seconds, but I went, wait. I think I remember in the novel it's saying that. And by the way, the Phasma novel is actually pretty good. It's not one of the top 3 best Star Wars novels in the new canon era, but it's actually a really nice read. I was not expecting great things out of it, but I quite enjoyed the Phasma novel. If you get a chance to check it out, I would recommend it. Okay. Next up, Evelyn Waquera writes, I was happy with the cameo, but only because I love Grant and Ezra's Flash, so seeing them together on screen was pretty fun. Overall, it was a bad crossover. Yeah, I finally did watch the final episode. It's a bad crossover. It's the first Arrowverse crossover that I haven't enjoyed. Every year I look forward to the Arrowverse crossover. This year is not great. I mean, was the ending scene great? Yes, the ending scene was great. But the 5 hours we went through to get to that ending scene was not good. And I can't be excited about the Ezra Miller appearance because yay, he's there. I was excited at first and realized, oh, but there's no purpose. Like, they didn't actually think of why he would be there. It's just, look, everybody. Like, they literally could have had Ezra Miller just kind of off screen and then come on screen. Hi, everybody. I'm also the Flash. Okay, bye-bye. And then go back off screen again. I mean, that's essentially what happened. So I didn't see anything to get excited about, but I know a lot of people did, and it did shock me. But I will say, the one thing that really stood out to me was the fact that this is the first time that I'm actually maybe believing that we're actually going to get this supposed Flash movie at some point. All right, Scott K. writes, big fan of DC Comics in all of its forms, except the DCEU, Scott says. It's just not my cup of tea, but I got to say that Ezra Miller cameo was just wonderfully done during the crisis. As a whole, the crossover was okay overall for me, though the tie-in canon comic was great. See, that's the thing to me. It really wasn't wonderfully done. And I'll tell you one of the things that really stands out to me about how it was not wonderfully done was when I read, and this has all been confirmed, that it wasn't even part of the plan to have him there. It was literally an afterthought long after they finished shooting the crossover. The idea was just birthed. The Warner Brothers office called and say, hey, what do you think maybe you could do a quick little scene with the Flash? Sure. And they just pulled them together without any purpose to the narrative, without any real reason to do it. They just threw them on stage together and said, ooh, look at us. We're the two Flashes standing beside each other. But there wasn't any purpose to it. There wasn't any reason for it. And that kind of frustrated me. Giggly to see them on screen together? Sure. But I wish they would have gave it purpose. That's all. And by the way, some people trying to make the stupid comparison are saying, but John, you have no problem with the Stan Lee cameos and those have no narrative purpose. Yeah, because the Stan Lee cameos are completely different. The Stan Lee cameos are about honoring the man who's responsible for Marvel being there. That's the thing. Every one of Stan Lee's appearances is about Marvel paying tribute to Stan Lee, the guy who without none of that would be there. Now, there are other people responsible too, not just Stan Lee. I'm not trying to get dragged into that argument. I'm just saying that without Stan Lee, there is no Marvel MCU. And they do that every time to honor him. And it has just become a thing that the fans come to expect to see because it is the Stan Lee thing. Ezra Miller is not Stan Lee. Nobody else is Stan Lee. So when you do the little cameos, I'm cool with it. It'd just be cool if there was actually a reason for them to do it. A little purpose. Have their cameo do something that influences the direction of the narrative. I don't think that's too much to ask, but again, it is what it is. I know a lot of people enjoyed the Ezra thing, and that's great. I'm glad other people did. I just would have liked it more if there was a purpose for it. Just like the Tom Welling one had no purpose, which is, by the way, why Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor on Smallville, turned down doing the crossover. Because he's like, okay, you want me to be in the crossover? Okay, what is it I'll be doing? We don't know yet. You don't know? You don't even have a plan? Then I pass. And Michael Rosenbaum passed on it because if you don't even know why I'm there, Tom Welling's appearance had no purpose. Tom Ellis, as great as it was to see Lucifer in there, at the end of the day, there was actually no purpose. It didn't affect the narrative whatsoever. So it was all just useless flash in the pan fan service cameos that I just prefer when they can come up with, do the work and give it meaning. Instead, they were just lazy. Oh, just put them on screen. That's it. It was totally lazy. Totally lazy. They didn't want to do the work of saying, hey, we got Tom Welling that's going to be in there. Okay, we got him for one day of shooting. What can we do that their interaction with Tom Welling, with this Clark Kent, influences the direction the narrative goes? Maybe a piece of information they would have got somewhere else. Let's say Tom's the one who gives it to them or something like that. They didn't want to do the work. Instead, they were just lazy. Hey, we got Tom Welling. Fantastic. What's he going to do? I don't know. Chop wood? Okay, sounds good to me. That's the whole... And that pretty much describes this whole crossover to me. Lazy. It felt like a lazy crossover, even though on the surface it appears to be the most ambitious one they've ever done. In reality, it was the laziest one they've ever done. And I just hope they learn some lessons for it and we get something better next time. But hey, again, that's not to take away from everybody who enjoyed it. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to yuck on anybody's yum. All right. Jeff Podolsky writes, 3 years out, there's some groans with the new Star Wars era. Sorry, let me try to start from the start again. 3 years out, there's some groans with the new Star Wars era since it isn't, quote unquote, what the fans want. You've said studios never do what people want, but you also have said no one wanted Solo. Where is the line? When should a studio do what the fans want? No. I never said studios never do what the fans want. I said studios shouldn't dictate what they do because of what the fans want. It could be for a couple of reasons. Let's be clear about this. Number one, whenever somebody says to me, the fans want this, I always stop them and go, whoa, time out. No. The fans don't want it. You want it. You want it. Because there are a bunch of fans who do not want the thing you're talking about. There are a bunch of fans who do, and there are a bunch of fans who don't. But I always got to correct people when they go, the fans want this. No. You want that. And people who are like-minded to you want that, but there's also a bunch of other people who don't. So that's the thing. People try to bolster their own position by saying, the fans want this. No. You want that. But anyway, putting that aside, I always quote the great NFL coach who, when asked by a sports reporter, the fans are wanting you to do this. And the coach very wisely said, one of the greatest of all time, said, the coaches who listen to the fans are destined to be sitting with them next week. It's true. And with the Solo thing, that's a totally different thing. The Solo thing, I said, there was no desire for a Solo film without Harrison Ford as Han Solo. There was no hunger. So that's just a marketing decision. That's basically a whole marketing decision. Should we make this product that nobody even wants? No, you shouldn't make a product that nobody wants. And that was something that nobody wanted. Now, I believe they shouldn't have made the movie, but they did want to make the movie, so they did it, and they made the best movie that they wanted to make, and that's what you should do. When should a studio do what the fans want? When it aligns with what they think is best. There are movie fans, the hypocrisy amongst us as movie fans, and I'll include myself in this. I include you in it. I include all of us in it. This is one of our flaws as movie fans, and we're all part of the problem, me included. There's an inherent hypocrisy where, on the one hand, we as movie fans will scream, no studio interference. But we want fan interference. We think the studio should keep their hands out of what the director's vision is. Oh, but we should be able to put our hands in what the director's vision is. There's an inherent hypocrisy there about that. And I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. A lot of us as film fans are guilty of that. But yeah, I think, look, you feel is there a hunger for this story? That's a marketing decision. Once you've made the decision to, let's make this movie because we think it can do well, then you put it into the hands of the creators. You put it in the hands of the artists. You put it in the hands of the people who do it, and they will do their best to make the best movie that they can. And if you can slide in there a few things that seem to be, what a bunch of the fans want, if it aligns with your creative vision, then great, you do that. But one of the big problems with Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and this is just my own subjective opinion, it was J.J. Abrams, who I love J.J., especially what he did with The Force Awakens. God, I love The Force Awakens. But was J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, instead of just doing a creative vision like with what Colin Trevorrow wrote in that script, they started listening to the fans. Mistake. We don't want Rey to be nobody. They should have kept her as nobody. It was always J.J. Abrams' plan that she was nobody. That was always his plan. And he changed it because everybody cried that we don't like that Rey's nobody. It was the best. Rey coming from nobody was the best thing they did in The Force Awakens. It was the best thing they did in The Force Awakens. But they listened to the cries and whines of the fans, and so they changed it, and it ended up being crap. And the Rise of Skywalker is littered with things that is clearly things they never intended to do before, but they listened to the whining of the fans. A certain segment of the fans, by the way. And they listened to the whining of the fans. Because we as fans whine. That's part of what we do, right? That's kind of our gig. we whine. We cheer, we hoot and holler, we get excited, but we also whine. Me included, we whine. That's what we do. And that's part of the thing. Instead of just sticking, if they had just stuck to JJ's creative vision, first of all, what they should have done was before they start shooting the first damn movie, they should have laid out the 3 films right from the beginning. They should have laid out the films right from the beginning. Because this whole Star Wars trilogy, other than The Force Awakens, has been about them trying to react to what the fans are saying. You know, most people love The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens is amazing, but a lot of the crying that came from the audience was, it's too much like Star Wars. Okay, oops, so let's react. Let's make the next one nothing like a Star Wars movie. And then everybody got upset with that. And then they go into the Rise of Skywalker. And the whole Rise of Skywalker thing was, again, just a big reaction. We didn't like Rose Tico. Okay, basically they pulled Rose Tico out of it. We don't want Rey to be from nobody. Okay, let's just change our plans and make her related to somebody. I mean, it was a big, holy mess, man. It was a big, holy mess. And again, that's all my own personal subjective opinion. You may feel like it was the greatest movie of the Star Wars franchise, and that's awesome if you did. Fantastic. It's just not how I felt, that's all. But yeah, there's deciding if there is a market for a movie, and then there's the whole process of how do we go about making this movie, and who do we listen to when we're making this movie. So anyway, that's just how I feel. I feel our job as fans is not to influence how films get made. Our job as fans is to consume. Our job is to consume and watch, hopefully enjoy or not enjoy a film. Give our feedback on it, whether we liked it or not. But at that should be the end of it. This whole bullshit, whiny, entitled crybaby culture that we're all part of, and that all of us to some degree or another are responsible for creating, is destroying a lot of stuff, I think. But anyway, that's just me. All right, Jay Bling writes, as of this writing, Bad Boys for Life is just under 90%. Somewhere Josh McCool is having a massive celebration. Yeah, and I saw that Josh actually got to go to the premiere. Josh McCool doesn't get to go to a lot of premieres. Josh McCool got to go to the premiere of Bad Boys for Life. And I thought, if there's anybody on this planet who should be at a Bad Boys for Life premiere, it is Josh McCouga. It was great to see that. Now, as of now, it has dropped a bit, but it's still very positive. As of right now, the Rotten Tomatoes meter is still very positive, 75%. So it's not just under 90, but it's still a very, very solid score of 75%. And I'll be honest with you, that's way better than I thought, because I haven't been a big fan of the trailers. So it's actually, I got to say, seeing a 75% on there for Bad Boys for Life is actually really, really encouraging to me. That seems really encouraging. Okay, let's see here. Where are we at? We are now up to Murray Reich, who writes, I'm sure you already have received many messages from others about Colin Trevorrow's original script that he wrote for 9. My thoughts on it are I actually like it more than JJ's and sounds more cohesive, which is why they should have recast Carrie Fisher to give her more to do, because like you said in the past, we needed somebody to get to the finish line. Also, I liked how they still kept Rey a nobody and Kylo the main baddie. Of course, this version could have sucked translated onto screen, but there's potential there. See, here's the thing. You raise a very, very important point here, Murray, that I think a lot of us often overlook, which is every screenplay is better when you read it. There was a movie that came out that was just a very, very bad movie, and I had a chance. It was that Clash of the Titans movie with Avatar boy. Why am I forgetting on Sam Worthington? I think Sam Worthington. And I think Liam Neeson was in it. That Clash of the Titans movie, right? I remember I had gotten my hands on that script early. Somebody from somewhere had sent me the script to that movie. And I'll tell you what, I read the script and I loved the script. I did. I loved the script. And this was long before the movie came out. I thought this movie is going to be great. And then I watched the movie and it's the same movie that was on the script, but it just came across. I didn't like the movie at all, even though I liked the script. So we got to understand that things in the script, theoretical things in the script, always seem better because we put flesh to those bones in our own minds, and we create our own pictures about how this might play out. So there's that. But listen, even that being said, I agree. I think it sounded like a much better movie. I think it sounded like a much better movie. They kept Rey a nobody. They didn't bring back Palpatine. And I liked the idea of bringing back Palpatine. I did. Until I saw the movie, and then I realized, oh, this didn't work at all. But I was all for bringing back Palpatine. In theory, I still think it works. It just didn't in the movie because it wasn't theory anymore. But it was a much better sounding, and I love the title more too. If you didn't hear, it was Star Wars Duel of the Fates. So yeah, man, when I read the outline of what this script was, I was like, this would have made a much better movie. But instead, they wanted to listen to the fans. They totally subverted everything that JJ had intended from the first movie, and they changed it all up, and they changed it for the worse, in my opinion. Again, I acknowledge that there's a lot of people who like the Skywalker, and I think that's great. I'm not trying to take away from any of that. I'm just saying for me, it didn't work, and that's one of the big reasons. So I concur, Murray. I concur, my friend. All right, Jacob Silvers writes, did you see that trailer for Stargirl, a new Disney Plus movie? It looks interesting. I'm excited to see how Grace Vanderwaal in a movie. She was on America's Got Talent and she won. I'm excited to see how she does. Well, I remember they showed us, and by the way, that's a really big super chat, Jacob. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level. I remember they showed us a big preview for this Stargirl back at D23. Now, to be clear, 2 Stargirl trailers dropped on the same day for completely different things. There's Stargirl, the DC CW universe show, and there's Stargirl, the Disney Plus, I believe it's a movie. And they're 2 completely different things, but they're both called Stargirl. And I believe both of them dropped their first trailers on the same day. I believe they dropped their trailers on the same day, which is kind of funny because they're both called Stargirl. I'll be honest with you, Jacob. Now, I think I heard that the Disney Plus movie is actually based on a book, is based on a novel. And I have no exposure to the novel whatsoever. So maybe if I did, I would consider it to be, oh my gosh, that sounds so special and sweet, and maybe I'll really be into it. I'll be honest with you though, I never did read it, and the preview I saw at D23 didn't do much to move my needle. Like it's clearly, I'm not the target audience for it, and that's cool. And the same thing with this trailer. I mean, it looked like it could have some sweetness to it, but I gotta admit it didn't appeal to me. That doesn't mean I won't love it if I watch it. Maybe I'll watch it and I'll think it's the greatest thing ever. But for now, the previews didn't do much for me. But I've talked to some people who do know the source material it's based on. I can't remember if it's a book or something else. And they seem very, very excited about it, which is great. Now, I don't watch America's Got Talent, so I don't know who this girl is, but I know a lot of people were pretty excited that she was going to be involved. But you know what? Here, let me bring up a picture here. Hold on a second. There is this great girl who used to work with me over at, when I was doing my show Film HQ for Comic-Con. I was doing Film HQ for Comic-Con. And let me see if I can just get this positioned a bit better. And go ahead, I'm going to ask you, go ahead and watch that Stargirl trailer. Go ahead and watch that Stargirl trailer. And tell me that Stargirl doesn't look a hell of a lot like Whitney Moore. Tell me she doesn't look like Whitney Moore. I think she looks like a 7 to 8 year old, like a high school version, younger version of Whitney Moore. Again, I would say go and watch that trailer and then go and look up some pictures of Whitney Moore and tell me she doesn't look like her. Whitney's incredible, by the way. But that's all I could think of when I saw that trailer. I was like, oh my God, this girl they've got playing Stargirl looks so much like Whitney Moore. That's all I could think about. Tell me, I'd like to know if you agree with me, Jacob, as someone who's excited about this movie. Tell me if you don't think she looks a lot like her. Maybe that one picture wasn't the best example, but I thought she just looked like the high school version of Whitney Moore. Anyway, your Orlando Informer writes, I've been watching since the AMC days. Well, thank you so much, man. And this is my first contribution to the show. Well, thank you so much, dude. We appreciate it. Just wanted to say thanks for all that you do. Love the show. I work at the AMC Disney Springs, Orlando, and you should check it out next time you are in town. Loved Parasite. Well, thanks so much for sending that in. And yeah, listen, the Disneyland in Anaheim, California is attached to this place called Downtown Disney, which is open and public. Anybody can go in there. And they had an AMC theater in there, and I used to love that AMC theater. Unfortunately, they closed that down. So if I ever do get around, your Orlando informer, to getting out to the Orlando Disneyland, which my wife has been to a couple of times, I will absolutely, even without you asking that, I would absolutely check out the AMC there, for sure and absolutely. And dude, listen, thank you so much for being a viewer of the show, and thank you so much for thinking that you wanted to support the show as well along the way. So thanks a lot for that, man, and have a great time in Orlando. I'm a little bit jealous that you already have the Rise of Resistance ride there, and we don't have it open quite yet. All right, Corey O writes, well, Jon Winter is here. For us up here in Washington State, as of last night, I now find myself having a day off from work and school to watch the John Campea Show live for once. Thanks for keeping me entertained while I bundle up and enjoy the snow. You know what? Listen, everybody laughs at me, Corio. Everybody laughs at me and they think I'm lying, but I'm not. My favorite season of the year is winter. I miss the snow. I love snow. There is something to me about the snow that, especially overnight snow, there's something to me about waking up in the morning and looking outside and the world seems new. Like there's this fresh blanket of snow on everything, and it just makes the world, like I already said, it makes the world feel new. I feel like it's a new day. Anything can happen today, you know? And I miss that. And I like the cold. I like the crispness in the air. And so some people say, oh, wow. Even my Canadian friends will say, oh, wow, you must love living in LA with that weather. And I do. I like the weather in LA. I do. I'm not saying I don't. It's just that it doesn't have my favorite weather. So right now in LA, in Celsius, which is the way the rest of the world measures it, you know, we're averaging like in the evening, I can go, it's 10 degrees outside or 12 degrees outside right now, which is like perfect. You know, put on a jacket. I mean, it's a really, really nice weather, but I miss the winter. I miss it so much. So while you're complaining about it, Corey, and I understand why, I do, I'm actually missing it. I do kind of miss it a lot. But anyway, that's just me. All right, Minh Tran writes, the Oliver moment and Sarah scene in the last two parts really made the crossover for me, changing it for me from it's okay to I like it. Yeah, that wasn't bad. I mean, they were a little bit artificial on the Sarah stuff, though, because they never really showed a lot of connection between Oliver and Sarah other than when she first appeared on the Arrow show. And I always liked her as White Canary. I thought they should have just kept her as Canary, period. That's how I kind of felt about it. And I love that they gave the character another shot on Legends. That was great because I really do love that character. But they were nice, a little contrived to me, but at the same time, Min, I've got to agree, they were some of the nicer moments of the crossover. So I think I'm going to side with you on that one. All right. Minh Tran also writes, CW annual crossover ranking, Crisis on Earth X, Infinite Earths, Elseworld, Invasion. Man, I really didn't like Crisis on Infinite Earths. To me, it's by far down at the bottom, but I am with you. The Crisis on Earth X one was so much fun. It was goofy, yes. It was silly, yes, but it was just so good. Everything was always serving the story. Even as kind of silly as it was always serving the story. They found a way to incorporate fan service with narrative purpose. And it felt so much more cohesive. And like it had direction. More than Crisis on Infinite Earths did. So I'm with you on that. I think Crisis on Earth X is still the best one they've done. All right. Undead6883 writes, hey, Jon, I'm a movie critic in Holland. Very cool. I think you're way off with the Uncharted movie. Uncharted is about Nathan in his 40s going on adventures. No, it's not. Not the movie, it's not. Going on adventures. He's not 10 and not 20, but he's a freaking adult. Casting Tom Holland is cheap and disrespectful to the fans. Completely not true. Completely not true. Look, you can't be short-sighted about this. First of all, Tom Holland is not 10 years old. Tom Holland is he's a man. He's 23 years old. Tom Holland is 23 years old. All right. And clearly there is precedent in the game for looking back at the beginning of that. Also, they clearly have a plan for this. They don't just see this Uncharted thing as one movie. They don't just see Uncharted as one movie. They see this as a potential franchise where Tom Holland maybe could be playing this for the next 8 to 10 years. And we can get in with Nathan at a younger age, at the beginning of his adventuring, and then move into the stuff that maybe the game fans are more familiar with. These movies are based on the game. They are not the game. Just like I say with comics, guys, the movies and the comics are two different things. They're based on them, sure, but they are still two different things. X-Men Days of Future Past may be called X-Men Days of Future Past, but it ain't nothing like the actual comic series. There's a few things that are similar, yes, but they're very, very different things. The way they did Thor, very, very different. And just like the video game, they're going to do that to the game. And it's not disrespectful to the fans. It is not. It's being smart. Because look, let's be honest here. I know a lot of people were screaming and hollering for Nathan Fillion, right? Because he did that great YouTube short. And I love the great YouTube short film there, right? Nathan's almost 50 years old. Nathan's almost 50. So 8-10 years from now, as Nathan is approaching 60 years old, you're not still getting a Nathan Drake in his prime. Now you would have had to have switched out your actors a few years earlier than that and all that kind of stuff. And Nathan is doing, by the way, Nathan Fillion is doing great stuff on his show, The Rookie. I'm really digging that show. And I love Nathan, good Canadian kid, by the way. And I love seeing him in there. But unless you're going to, look, if they were to say to me that Uncharted was going to be a one-shot movie, I'd accept that. I would accept, okay, yeah, get an actor in his early to mid 40s. And if it's a one-shot movie, one time only, yeah, go for that. I would be in agreement. But if they're looking at the big picture and looking at this not as a one-shot movie, but a potential franchise, because in the video games, it's easy. It's like The Simpsons. Bart can always be the same age. Maggie can always be a baby with a pacifier. In the game, Nathan can always look the same, even though the games come out over the span of 12 years. He can always still look the same. You can't do that with the movies. So again, I think if they were looking at it as a one-shot movie and they were making it clear, we're just going to make one Uncharted movie, that's it, then I would agree. Then I would say, well, then go with the traditional understanding of Nathan Drake. However, if you are looking long-term and you're hoping this could be a franchise, like the MCU has been a franchise over 11 going into 12 years, and you think that maybe Uncharted has that kind of potential, then I'm sorry you can't start with a 45-year-old actor or a 44-year-old actor, or in the case of a Nathan Fillion, a 48-year-old actor. You just can't do that. One-shot movie, you can. Looking at it long-term and having the audience grow with the actor as they go, then I think they made the right choice. And Tom Holland's a terrific actor. He's just a terrific actor. And I get it. He plays a high school student in one movie, so we see him kind of one way. But the fact is, he's a 23-year-old dude. He's going to be 24 by the time they actually get around to shooting this thing. So, yeah, I think you're looking at a very short-term, small picture. I think if you look at it long-term, big picture, I think you start to see why I agree with them. I think this is the right move for them right now. Anyway, Licardo Guerra writes, they did more than their usual metaphoric belittling Superman during this crisis. They actually made him small. Yeah, they did. But you guys know me. I have gone off many, many times about how I do not appreciate, as a fan of Superman, the way they have consistently jobbed him, belittled him, made him small. He is Superman, damn it. He is the king of all superheroes. I don't care Marvel. I don't care DC. The king of all superheroes is Superman. And CW has done nothing but spit on this character and pull out their collective dicks and pissed on this character and done everything they can do to belittle, shrink, and like you just said, dude, make him small. He's Superman. He's Superman. And I just don't appreciate, I've never appreciated the way CW's handled Superman. Not in the least. All right, Jack Hamilton writes, with that, what would the Kurgan be like if he was a Sith? Oh, he'd be unstoppable. Better to burn out than fade away. He would just give the Kurgan a lightsaber. Are you freaking kidding me? He would just kill everybody. Especially if he was an immortal Sith. Imagine that. All right, Ryan Hewitt writes, finally watched Parasite last night. I loved it. Bong Joon-ho is a wonderful director. Dude, I'm telling you, I was so impressed with that movie. You know, sometimes we hear a lot of people, especially when it comes to more of an artistic film or a smaller film, an indie film, a foreign film, people ranting and raving about how great it is. And then you get around to seeing it, it's like, okay, it was good, but Parasite lived up to and exceeded all the hype I had heard for it. For me personally, Parasite met and exceeded all the hype I had heard for it. I absolutely loved it, man. I absolutely loved Parasite, and I'm glad you did too, Ryan. All right, Suthius writes, hey guys, y'all excited for Peter? Man, I'm like, really? They're making a second one? I mean, good for Donald Gleason. I mean, he's getting work, man, so that's always good, but yeah, not really excited about that one, Suthius. All right, Jeremy writes, I'd love to see Gareth Evans break into Hollywood. His work on the Raid franchise and Morantau are so, I'm not familiar with that one, to be honest with you, are so good. His Deathstroke film could have been great. There's been so much talk. I mean, I swear I've heard at least 4 or 5 movies mentioned, like potential movies mentioned with him as a potential director. And he might even still have some listed. Like right now, they still have, you know, the Deathstroke thing. There's another one he's got that they say is announced called Blister. And I don't know much about it. There's no cast, nothing about the movie, but they say there's this movie Blister that's supposed to be getting done. Who is the company behind it right now? Production company is a small company, Media Rights Capital. So it's probably maybe another one being done overseas. How he has not really gotten a shot to do a bigger North American film, I don't understand. I'm not saying he's a sure hit. I'm not saying that at all. But how he has not at least gotten a shot is a little bit confusing to me. I got to say, dude, I absolutely got to say. All right. Last couple of questions here, guys. Then we got to call it a night. Joe Din writes, I know you're not a big fan of the beat animated film category. Oh, you probably meant best animated film category. But seeing the creators of Klaus's great reaction to their Oscar nomination gives a great argument as to why it should exist. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Anybody who gets an Oscar nomination for anything is going to have a really big reaction. That does not justify the existence of a category that shouldn't exist, in my opinion. It really gives these animators a sense of hope and optimism. Listen, the reason I don't believe that that the category of best animated film should exist is because I don't think it honors film. I think it belittles. I don't think it honors animation. I think it belittles animation. It's saying, oh, you little animated films, aren't you adorable and cute? You don't have a seat at the table with the real movies. So isn't it nice? We're going to give you your nice own little kiddie table. Isn't that nice? Yay! No, I think it's insulting to the animated medium. I really do. A good movie is a good movie is a good movie. And basically what happened was you had a streak of 6 or 7 years in a row where the number one critically rated film of the year was a Pixar animated film, and none of those years did those films get a nomination for Best Picture. I'm not saying this should automatically follow what the critic ratings was. I'm just saying it says something when, like, you had 6 or 7 years in a row where a Pixar film was the number one critically rated film of the year, and yet none of them got Best Picture nominations. To date, only 3 animated films in history have gotten a Best Picture nomination. The original animated Beauty and the Beast, Up got nominated, rightfully so, and Toy Story 3, again, rightfully so. How Wall-E didn't get a Best Picture nomination is completely beyond me, but there's a number of films that are just completely beyond me that they didn't get Best Picture nomination. This category was created, make no mistake about it, not to honor the animated medium. It was meant to placate the animated medium and to belittle it and to put it in a nice little corner. It shouldn't exist. It's either a best movie or it's not. Because if you're going to have best animated, then you might as well just start making all sorts of little participation awards. And that's why I feel that way about that. It's super awesome to see filmmakers get excited to be honored and recognized like that. But again, I just feel like best animated was the Academy of giving themselves an out so they didn't have to worry about dealing with the controversy every single year. It's like, how the hell did you not nominate this particular animated film that was like the best critically reviewed film of the year? How do you not do that year after year? So they said, you know what? We don't even want to deal with this controversy anymore. Let's just create its own category so we don't have to deal with it. It was lazy. It was lazy. And it does not honor the animators. To me, it belittles the animators. Animators who deserved it, the animators and artists in this medium who deserve to be truly honored. Not swept to the side at some kiddie table that they set up. Anyway, that's just how obviously I have some very passionate feelings about that, but that's just my feelings on that, Joe. That's just mine. All right, Amit Suresh writes, the last 2 Crisis episodes made the crossover well. I disagree. Couple of nice moments, but to me, it was just as messy as everything else in it, but that's just my opinion. Suthius writes, it was just weird. I was like, what? Why is he here? Oh, if you're talking about the Flash appearance, yeah, again, I got as excited as everybody when he first showed up, but I was expecting, okay, now what's he doing? Like, why is he here? Oh, he's just here to say, hey, everybody, I'm here. Whoop, bye, I'm disappearing. Yeah, it was frustrating to me. All right, Joe Din writes, what's a better feeling? To have a movie completely meet all of your high expectations and becomes one of your favorite of the year, or a movie you had little to no expectations for, and you not only like it, but it's one of your favorites of the year? Honestly, there's such different experiences. I just love seeing a movie that's one of my favorite movies of the year. Honestly, I do. It's more about that than anything. What's the end result? How did I feel? It's always a great feeling when you go into a movie with high expectations and it actually meets those expectations, because that doesn't happen often. It's also a great feeling to go into a movie that you had low expectations of and you ended up loving it, because also that doesn't happen very often. So they're two completely different things. It's all about the end result. How do I feel walking out? Did I enjoy this film? So I'm gonna take a push on that one, Joe. I'm gonna take a push. So yeah, I mean, it's because to me it's all about the end result. It's all about the end result. All right, Mark Harlan writes, Rey's costume in The Last Jedi is much better than 7 or 9. Didn't like the Rey white outfit. JJ went back to the Force Awakens outfit in 9. You know, each film had a slightly different look. I gotta say, I'm not, the Rise of Skywalker is my least favorite in the new saga. That said, I think her outfit might have been my favorite. But listen, I am no fashionista. Look at me. I'm a fucking slob. I mean, I have no fashion sense or fashion taste whatsoever. So me saying, I liked her look in this movie should mean absolutely nothing to anybody, because I have no clue what I'm talking about when it comes to fashion. But I think I actually got to say, Mark, I actually think I might have actually preferred her look in that one. But I could totally see where you're coming from on that. All right. 2 more questions here. James Argenta writes, one current problem I see with Oscars is the big studios like Netflix you probably mean put, not but, put more money in campaigns for a small film like Two Popes than A24 can for The Farewell. Listen, I'm going to be really honest here. I think, do the awards campaigns have an effect? Sure. I think they have an effect. But I also think a lot of people really overblow how much of an effect they have. I think they really overblow how much of an effect they have. Because, if I think one movie is better than another, you can send me all the for your consideration postcards and all the for your consideration screeners and all, but you can send that to me all you want. I still think it's not going to change my mind that movie's better than the other one. I'm still going to vote like that. And the vast majority, I think, of Oscar voters, of Broadcast Film Critics Association voters, of SAG voters, I think most of them are probably the same as me. You can send out all this stuff and keep your film on our radar, but it's not going to change my mind that this film was better than this film. It's just not. Will it for some people? Maybe, but I think the percentage is small. So everybody pretends like it's all about who has the biggest marketing campaign. No, it really doesn't. I really don't think it does. Because, I mean, there was a year that I was a part of a voting body on something, and I got a lot of for your consideration stuff, and yeah, it did keep it in the front of my head, but it didn't change my mind that I thought this movie was better than this one. This movie sent me more marketing campaign materials, and it kept it, in my intention, but it didn't change my mind. This other movie was better than it, and that's the way I'm going to vote. And honestly, I mean, everybody thinks everything is the Illuminati and blah, 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 blah. I honestly don't believe that. I think, listen, I loved The Farewell. I did. If I had my say, I think The Farewell, I would have given The Farewell a Best Picture nomination. I love that movie. But you know what else? I love Two Popes. I loved Two Popes. That movie, it's a special and a tour de force in acting. Oh my God, the acting in that. The scenes where the two leads are in the same scenes together, just talking to each other, is some of the best cinema I've seen all year. It's remarkable. And I haven't gotten any campaign stuff from Netflix for Two Popes or A24 for The Farewell. But yeah, I probably give... I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I loved Awkwafina in The Farewell. She was a revelation to me. Like, what she was actually capable of, that was a revelation to me for her. She wasn't one of the best performances of the year, though. She just wasn't. Subjective opinion, but understanding with that asterisk that I'm acknowledging that's my own subjective opinion, I say, from my subjective point of view, there's no way she was one of the best actresses of the year. No, I don't even put her in the top 10. She was great. She was great. And she showed me something that I didn't know she was capable of. That's made me go, oh my God, I'm really looking forward to what I see her in next. That's what she did for me in that. But was she one of the top 5 of the year? No. Was Jonathan Pryce? Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. So yeah, I really don't think, I think people way overestimate how much of an effect the campaigns do. An effect? Yeah. A real significant effect? I really disagree. I really don't think so. And I say that as somebody who knows a lot of Academy voters. I know a lot of Academy voters, and I don't see them being affected by this. Maybe a small percentage, but not a significant percentage. But that's just me. All right. Last question today. I'll take from R. Lee, who writes, the Academy doesn't make movies only... Let me see. The Academy doesn't make movies only critique it. Not their job to make social statements. Hollywood needs to diversify quality cinema, then the Academy will critique it. It's not rocket science to me. And you know me, Arlie, I completely agree. That's basically essentially what I was saying before. It's Hollywood's job, I believe, to add as many voices to the art of storytelling as possible from as many different perspectives as possible. Perspectives on race and gender and orientation, socioeconomical background, political beliefs, whatever. I think it is Hollywood's job to let stories be told from many different perspectives, because the more perspectives you have stories told from, I believe you get better stories. And then at the end of that day, then the Academy is just meant to adjudicate from their own subjective opinions. 7,000 voting members from their own subjective points of view vote on what they feel is the best. And if you have a more diverse pool of films at the end of a year to draw from, more times than not, that will be then reflected in the awards that go out to the end of the year. If you have a very homogenous pool of films at the end of the year, then by scientific definition, you're probably going to see more of what looks like a homogenized group of nominees at the Academy Awards that year. It's not rocket science. So yeah, I agree with you on that. But you know that already. Again, it's got to be both sides of the coin. This isn't just about, it's not the Oscars' job to do diversity in their nominees. You can't say that without also acknowledging and shining a light on the fact that Hollywood needs to diversify their storytellers. I mean, they go hand in hand. It's not one or the other. It is a hand-in-hand thing. At least that's how I see it. And again, maybe I'll be convinced differently. Maybe I'll change. Maybe next year I'll be singing a completely different tune. I'm not going to die on I'm not going to fall on this sword, but that's kind of how I see it right now. Anyway, guys, that will do it for this installment of, what am I doing here? What's my name again? Oh, yes. John Campea's companion videos. That'll do it for this installment of a companion video, guys. We still have a lot of questions to get caught up on, but we're going to continue the process of getting caught up on all the questions on tomorrow's John Campea Show. Make sure you guys come along and join us for that. And again, just a reminder to everybody that if you do want to send in a question, and by the way, thank you to everybody who sent in questions because of two things. Number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported the channel while you were doing it, and all of us here at the John Campea Show, thank you very much for that. But just remember, starting tomorrow, the only way to send in questions, other than for our main topics, because you can send in a main topic anytime, 24/7, doesn't cost you anything to do it. You just go anytime over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. You fill out the form with your topic or question, and maybe you might see that topic or question as one of our main topics in the John Campea Show. But if you want to guarantee your question gets on and part of the live question part, use the tip link. That's streamelements.com/movieblogtv. That's actually always been the official name of my YouTube channel, even though it's called John Campea. But it's streamelements.com/movieblogtv, all one word. You see the link in the description below, and you can go in there and fire in your questions, and they will get done either on the John Campea Show or in a companion video to go along with it. All right, guys, I'll be back again tomorrow with me and Robert Meyer Burnett. Apologies, I know everybody was looking forward to seeing Aaron Cummings and Chris Carr back on the show, which was supposed to be today, but I got sick and didn't do the show. As it turns out, Chris was sick today too with something else entirely. So there were two of us that were down and out today anyway. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here, everybody. My name is John Campea, and until next time, hopefully not with stomach flu or food poisoning or any other kind of plague, bye-bye.